Willkommen, bienvenido, welcome. Esto es Plan 9. Soy Nahuel Rodríguez y hoy tenemos un capítulo especial. Está con nosotros el director sudafricano Ryan Kruger, cuya película Fried Barry se está exhibiendo al momento de la grabación de esta entrevista en el Festival Buenos Aires Rojo Sangre. Hello Ryan, how are you? How are you holding up? How is the pandemic treating you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thanks to you. Are you still on lockdown in South Africa?
No, there's no lockdown. Thank God. There's no lockdown.
Yes.
Everything's open, so it's nice.
Yeah. Here too, it started to open in the lockdown, but we still have to have some measures. You know?
Yeah, well, no, it's been a crazy year for everybody. I think.
A very crazy year. I agree. Well, I talked about Fried Barry with some friends, and it was hard to describe it in words. So, how would you describe your film?
I think Fried Barry is like a hard one to describe in the sense of, I mean, the storyline is easy. You know, it's about a heroin addict that gets abducted by aliens, and he takes his body on a joyride through Cape Town. You know, but it's just it's just a crazy, wacky movie. I mean, when you look at the poster and you watch the trailer, it's everything it says it is, but it's a whole lot more that you don't expect. And I think it's just, it has elements of horror, elements of sci-fi, a lot of comedy and dry and dark humor. So yeah, I think there's a bit of everything in there for everyone.
Yes,
but
yes.
It's also one of those type of films you either love it or you hate it. You either get it or you don't get it.
Yes, it's a film, but to not so many people will love. It's like a genre movie, no?
Yeah.
Well, I noticed two particular things in the movie. The first was the use of the language. I heard two languages, Afrikaans and English, but Alien Barry doesn't speak none. And the second is related with the sound. It is used in a very subjective way. So can you talk about those two things?
Yeah, well, for me, I wanted the film to be, very, very South African in a sense of, I mean, it's a universal story, anybody, can understand it, and it's a genre movie. But at the same time, I wanted that South African, stamp on it. So, and with the, with the wife, she speaks the majority of the, the Afrikaans in the movie. So, having that South African stamp and that like low class, rough, sort of character, which just went right with the character, when she was arguing and shouting and getting frustrated. But in South Africa itself, in many places, a lot of people, switch from English to Afrikaans a lot. So it's also a very common thing for people to mix and match. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that, make films around the world, and, they'll, it's like people come here, or there's, people in different countries, and they try, let everybody get American accents, and they pretend that it's America, and then, they sell it to American audience. And for me, I just wanted to do a South African film that we haven't seen before, because in South Africa, we don't make these type of movies whatsoever. And it's definitely the first of its kind for this type of movie to come out of South Africa, as we make comedies and thrillers and historical movies. So it was important to have that stamp and, proud South African film, and something that we haven't seen before. And I think it's an important point to get across to the audience of, what type of films what I'm doing here in South Africa,
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the other question?
Yes, it was a very long question. I want to talk about the sound, because when I was showing this movie, I noticed that the use of the sound is very subjective. We hear what Barry hears.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that was a important thing for me with this film was that, you know, it's a big part of the movie. The sound design and the music is a major part of the movie. So all along, you know, I wanted Hazer that did the score and the sound design for the movie. It was very important that you know, I have that in it. It's such a big part of the movie. And for me, at the start, before I made this film, you know, I wanted to make a cult style film and have that iconic cult sort of character, and you know, it goes with everything else, with the look and the feel and the tone, the music, the sound design, and you know, and the editing and how we've shot it and the lenses that we use. And because I wanted to make this cult style film, you've got to stay on this line, and you have to be very careful that you don't go off the line, because then it won't be that like cult style film. And you know, the way things have been going now, everybody that has watched it, they've been like, oh, this is going to be a cult film without a doubt. This is going to be a cult style film, which is amazing to hear, because that's what, you know, I was going for. But it's keeping on that fine line. So I mean, there was many times, there was one scene we were editing in post, and it was you know, it was so funny. There was this one scene in the car, and we edited it a certain way. It was so funny, and I was like, this is good, but it's the wrong tone. It's the wrong feel that I'm going for. And I was like, we're gonna have to re-edit the scene. And even though that it was really funny, it just wasn't the right tone that I was looking for. And you have to go back to that cinematic feel and that cult style movie feel to stay on that line, to keep it on the right path for the right tone, you know, of the movie.
You talk about the music. I really like the music. It's very, well, I think that is strange for a horror film to use that kind of music. I think that it can be described as electronic. So we are
Yeah,
accustomed.
yeah, you know, the film has, I mean, I'm influenced in a lot of 80s films. So 80s films for me are my favorite. So going for the, you know, the certain look and colors, and with the music, it still had that, it's still a modern feel with the music, but also the undertone that still gave it that, like, you know, 80s feel, which, you know, which is like, you know, a bit of, you know, there was still epic parts of the music, whether it's kind of like, you know, big, like Hans Zimmer, or something like John Carpenter style. You know, there's a mixture in there to, you know, to create that right tone throughout the movie, which is a major part of the movie. And you know, people always forget how important music is, you know, for the film. And everybody that watches this film, they're always like, oh my God, who did the music? And the music is amazing. And there's so many, you know, great parts, you know, in the film, you know?
Yes, it has like a rhythmic montage.
Mm.
That was very interesting. So you have directed some video clips. Fried Barry is your feature film. Which are the differences between those two audiovisual languages?
I mean, you know, there's a lot of people that ask me this. I mean, you see, in South Africa, I've always been known for a narrative storyteller within music videos. And, you know, music videos like 3 or 4 minutes. So it's still telling a story, and you still have a character and stuff like that. So I don't think there's much difference. Some people may disagree with me, but at the same time, it's just a longer form of filmmaking. You know, to do a feature film, it's like the longest time I'm spending on one story. It's the longest time I'm spending on one character, and that's what's great about it, is to express yourself through, you know, these characters, and let them develop, and you know, as the movie goes along. So it's a lot of fun sticking with, you know, certain characters and a story for, you know, a long period of time. So, and the whole aspect of the filmmaking side of technical stuff, it's not much different, apart from, like I said, it's longer, or at the same time you can, because of the style of the film, of what it is, and there's kind of like no rules in a sense, and I can go all out and do what I want to do, and it's not too hectic. You know, it's because when you're making music videos, I'm kind of still in a box, because I'm like, okay, this has to get on like commercial TV, this has to be able to play here, so it has to be, you know, rated PG or whatever. So with Fry Barry, it's like, oh, I can do what I want. So, you know, I can go balls to the wall and do anything I want, and that's what's great about, you know, doing long form, or, you know, a genre film like this, where there's literally no rules, and, you know, you can do what you want, and you can experiment, and that's, I guess that's where, you know, the magic comes from.
So, did you see like a natural step to make a feature film?
Sorry, say it again.
Do you saw it like a natural step? Do it a film? The transition between
Yeah. So I mean, I've been, you know, I've always wanted to make feature films. So it's making music videos and experimental films and commercials. It's always been that stepping stone towards, you know, making a feature film. And it gets to a point in your career where you have to say, okay, I have to stop doing the music videos and doing this, otherwise I'm never going to be able to do a film, because another job just comes along, and another job just comes along, and the feature film just gets pushed away and away. So it got to that point where I'm like, right, I'm not going to take any more music videos. I'm not going to do any more. For now, I need to concentrate on making a film. And that's kind of, you know, what happened. It's like I needed to make that step. And now that I've made a feature film, and Fry Barry being my first, and now it's great, because now it's, you know, it's onto the next one, and, you know, concentrating, you know, towards the next film. And I think that's the right move. I can always go back to shooting music videos here and there, but there's nothing better than making movies for myself personally.
You are on to the next movie. Are you thinking on your next movie?
Yeah, so I've got quite for a while now. I've had an idea that I've had for about 8 years that I want to do for my next film. I can't speak too much about it, but it's about time travel. So that's going to be the next film.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just as crazy as Fry Barry.
I want to see it. You said that you can nearly do whatever you want in a film. So I was thinking that it's not a liberty usual in pretty much a lot of directors. So how was the producing? How was the financing of the film?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So, I mean, over the years, I've come close many times to making a film where producers are like, "Hey, Ryan, we want to work with you. We want to do this," and then it fades away and it doesn't happen. And then another producer comes and it's the same shit, and then it fades away. So with Fry Barry, me and my producer James C. Williamson, I contacted him, and I only knew him for about a month, and I just got to that point in my career and my personal life and where I was at the time, and I just said to myself, I can't wait anymore. I can't wait on these studios and these people to say, oh, we might do it, we might not do it. Yeah, we'll do it next year, and it doesn't happen. And time passes, time passes. And if you don't make the move, it's never going to happen. So I have quite a few scripts that I had that I could have made. And then when I got the idea for Fry Barry, I just knew that was the idea. That was the one to do. And the other scripts probably would have been way easier to make. And but when I got the idea, I just knew straight away it's different and it's totally me and my style and what I want to do. And yeah, and I just knew it was the right one. And then I spoke to my producer and I said, listen, I want to make a movie and I want to make it next month. And he was like, well, why do you want to make it next month? And he was he said, why do you want to shoot it next month? And I was like, well, if we don't shoot it next month, it's never going to happen. It's just going to get pushed back again and again. So I needed to do it now. And he's like, have you got a script? And I was like, no. So what happened was, when I got the idea, I wrote 50% brief scene breakdown. Barry does this, Barry does that, and for about 50% of it. And then later on I wrote, I think about 7, 8 bits of dialogue throughout the movie. And the rest of the movie, a month later we started shooting, and the rest of the movie was improv on set, and we literally, it was all improv with the actors on set, where, it was still a lot of direction there, but at the same time it was like, okay, we've got this scene and we've got these obstacles, let's have fun. So let's try this, let's try that. And then we would go for a rough take, a rehearsal. I'm like, cool, okay, maybe say this and maybe take that bit out and let's try it again. And that's where the magic comes from, where you're just, you're in the moment, doing these things where it's just improv and it's organic and living in the moment. And as an actor as well myself, I love working with actors. So it was great to be in that moment and to be spontaneous and not set yourself in concrete, where most films that people make, it's like, this is the story, this is the scene, this is how it has to be filmed. And when doing a film like Fry Barry, is being in the moment and being like, oh, great idea, why, let's do this or let's do that. And I think it comes across and it shows. So Fry Barry was shot over a year and a half. We shot 28 days in total over a year and a half. But it was cool because it was like plan, it was plan, shoot. So, there was a lot of prep time for each, time we were doing. So a lot of, pre-production went into everything that we were shooting, but we could live in the moment more and, and come up with ideas, while we're there. And the only guy that didn't improvise was Gary Green, Fry Barry, because he wasn't an actor. His background, he's normally an extra. So with Gary, I had to work with him very closely and to get exactly what I wanted. So, I mean, there would be many times where, the camera's here and Barry's here, and I'm behind, just on the side of the camera, and I'm saying to Gary, okay, copy my face. Now do this face. Okay, now do this face. Okay, now do this face. And then I've got all those moments for the edit. So when it came to the edit, it's like he's hitting all the beats, and it's, makes it funnier, and it's, it looks like he's hitting all those, comedy beats. But I had to, like I said, I had to work with him super closely because he's not an actor. So I really needed to, the film is Fry Barry. I couldn't have done it without Gary Green, but he's got that look and what I wanted. So it was, and for the type of character that I wanted, that, mimics other people and stuff like that. And it's funny because while he's the alien, he's mimicking people. And then when I'm directing him, he's mimicking me as well. So it was a very interesting process. But we had an amazing cast. We had an amazing crew making this film, and Gary gave 120%. I think he knew that this was his shot, as a lead in a movie, and he always wanted to do another take, and he was perfect for the role. And as I said, nobody could have done this role better than Gary, because he has that look, he's got that presence. And as I said earlier, I wanted that iconic character, and he's got that iconic look. Nobody looks like him. So I think over the years, people are always trying to make that new iconic character. Back in the day, we have like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Halloween, and they've either got a mask, and people are always trying to make a new character with masks and monsters and stuff like that. And with Fry Barry, I wanted to make that character, but I also wanted to make his denim jacket and his jeans. That's his like Superman uniform. That's his thing. And it's more about the face. And that's it. And I mean, a lot of, like I said, a lot of prep went into the movie and into the character. And I would say, like with the baby Barry, scene in the movie, you know, there was a lot of time where I'm messaging Gary and I'm saying it should sound like this, and then I would do this weird voice, and then Gary would send me the voice back, and I'm like, no, it's got to be more like this, and it was funny. And then I would say to him, like, you know, watch Edward Scissorhands. I said, I want you to walk with this, like, you know, funny walk and stuff like that. So yeah, a lot went into, even though it was like we shot like a month later, that, you know, there was a lot of stuff that went into pre-prod, and I think it made the film better in a sense that we shot it over a year and a half, because then we had so much time to, you know, to do that pre-prod and to get things right, you know.
So the shooting was not continued. Was you have a lot of stops during the shootings?
Yeah. So there was a lot of space in between. As I said, it was 28 days over a year and a half. So I built the movie around Gary and Fry Barry to, you know, to make it work with the character and with shooting. So the main continuity of the movie was Fry Barry, because, you know, Fry Barry, it's basically a road movie without the car, and Barry's the car. So the main continuity is him. So every person that he meets, you know, they're done and they're out of it. They don't need to come back again. And the only people that come back into it is his wife and the prostitute, and nobody else comes back into it. So the only continuity in the main film is Fry Barry, and then his wife and the prostitute that comes back into it later on.
Well, you talk something about not having a script and doing a scene breakdown. I think that this thing is a little complex because it can go really good and it can go really bad. You were nervous about that, not having a script, or you felt confident?
No, well, you see, I come from originally I come from an acting background. So for me, I love improv, and I love being in the moment, and we know what the scene is, and then it's it's like the brief of the scene is, for example, it's like the supermarket. So I would say Barry goes to the supermarket, and there's a cashier at the till, and then there will be a person giving away the free food, and then Barry gets lost, and that's it. So that was the brief of the scene. So now you can have fun and go, okay, so now the woman on the till, she fancies him, and she's going to do all this sexual stuff with all the food that she's scanning. And then it's like, and then it's like the guy with the cheese. Originally, that actor didn't turn up on set, so my producer James ended up being the cheese guy, and I said, you need to play it almost like this horny gay guy, and it'll just be funnier. And he did an amazing job, and it was really funny, and we all couldn't stop laughing. But the fact that it's almost like this aura that Fry Barry's given off, that everybody just wants to fuck him, which makes it more funny, because you look at his face and you're like, no, nobody's really gonna want to fuck this guy. But that's what I'm saying. It's so you've got these subjects within a scene, and then you can have fun with it. So nothing's set in stone, because then when something's set in stone, it feels like you can't change it. This is like, for big studio pictures, it's like, this is how it has to be. This is what got greenlit, and this is what got signed off. So you're kind of directing it differently. So to not have any restrictions and being in that moment and going, you know what, let's try this, or let's try that. And when the girl at the checkout, originally, she was meant to be freaked out by Fry Barry, and she wasn't meant to do anything sexual. She was just meant to be like, tell your husband to stop like staring at me. And that's how the first take went. And then I was like, I said, let's change it around, and you fancy him and you want to fuck him, but you got to make sure that his wife doesn't see, and use the objects like the drink and the toilet roll and all this as sexual things. And then as soon as we shot that take, I knew, like, that's the take, that's the one. So if the script was set in concrete, then we wouldn't get that magic. And I think it's good to, like I said, to really live in that moment and think of the 10 things that could happen in this scene. But I think there's a lot of, you see, I as a director, I shoot for the edit, so I'm busy editing it in my head. I know what's going to cut and what's not going to cut. So the thing is, I think there's, you do get those directors that overcover a scene where they're like, okay, let's get this angle, let's get that angle, let's shoot from there. And sometimes you don't need all that shit. Sometimes it's like, this is it, it's right here, and we don't need all this other stuff. This is it. It's two people talking, and this is all we need. So you also, I don't shoot shit that I know I'm not going to use, and I know that I'm not going to need. So be in the moment, feel what is the scene about, and then you don't need to over edit and overshoot it, and that's time. At the end of the day, that's time that you don't have. So like, shoot it. I think if you're shooting like 20 takes on a scene, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You should know what you want, and you should be able to get it, so it's just like, you're just wasting time. So I think if you know what you want and you know what the scene's about, then that's it. And you don't need to overshoot, and you don't need to do so many takes on one piece,
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm going to do the last question. This is related with the photography. I notice, well, you use a particular angle on the close-ups that is kind of strange. Well, you use a lot of colors, you use a lot of lights that were very interesting, but the central thing here is that the photography is related with the things that are happening in narrative. You don't stylize without necessity. It is central for the narrative. How do you accomplish that?
Yeah, so I mean, so my DP, Gareth Place, he did an amazing job. Before we started, his background is normally with like commercials where everything's clean and stuff. So, he knows that I love a lot of 80s films, and I showed him a few 80s films, and I like this certain type of lighting, and I like shadows, and it must be dark, it must be gritty. It doesn't need to be. I don't want it to look beautiful. It's beautiful in a different way, where it's dark and shadows, and have those red lights or the green lights or the blue lights, and and that was the thing. But it's also a big part, like you said, with the angles or even the lensing that we used especially for Barry. And as I said, the movie, you know what the movie's about, and it has a very easy storyline, and that's not what the movie's about, in a sense of, the movie's about going on this journey and feeling what Barry's feeling, and you're going along, with him. So a lot of the time, I'd sit there with Gareth, and he would say to me, are we watching Barry, or are we with Barry? Are we with him? Is it a POV, or are we watching from a distance, or are we with him? Are we going with him, in this scene? And that was the thing. It's like, there's two things that I always see, Fry Barry, that it's designed to be, is that, it's designed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's designed to be unpredictable. It's designed to, by the time you finish watching it, you're like, oh, I just want to get a shower. I feel dirty after this movie. And so it's almost like you're going on the trip with Barry, or you're going on the trip, as Barry. So it's like, you're going on the trip as Barry, or you're going on the trip with Barry, and you can see it from two different ways. And that's why I said Fry Barry is very much the type of film designed for a certain market, a certain audience. Even though we've had a lot of non-target market audience really love Fry Barry, but it's really, the people that love it will rave about it. The people that hate it will rave about it because they just don't get it. And that's good, and that's okay. That's fine. If they don't get it and they don't understand it, or they think it's a lack of story or whatever, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I always say there's plenty of movies that we sit there and we watch 10, 20 minutes, or the whole thing, and then we go, that was shit. I'm not going to watch that again. And then you don't even tell your friend about it. And what's great about Fried Barry is that it is impossible to watch Fried Barry and not to talk about Fried Barry after you've watched it. And that's what it is. That's what it's designed to do. And when you do something different, and if it's a different format, what people are not used to seeing, that's good. That's why people will talk about it. And that's what it's designed for. I mean, it's a very bold, you know, first time filmmaker movie, you know what I mean? But it gets your attention. And I think once you've seen it, you're not going to forget it.
Yes,
Which is good.
I'm certain of that. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. It was a pleasure having you.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.